Welcome to the latest episode of The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson, joined as always by my co-host Matt Fortuna. We have college football playoff rankings to talk about and a special guest, ESPN sideline reporter Stormy Buonantony joins the show. Talk a little bit about calling Notre Dame-Boston College. She got the post-game Jeremiah Love interview, which I wanted to follow up with Love on Tuesday, but he didn't come in for interviews. Basically, what did he say and to whom did he say it as he was running for 94 yards for a touchdown last Saturday?
About as good of a post-game interview as you'll see, as far as him telling Stormy, yeah, I was thinking of my coach who said you can't go 96 yards. And I said, I already went 98 once. Watch this. And as you see, he is talking to his own sideline. I don't know if we've seen that. We've seen players talk trash to the other sideline.
Yeah, Xavier Watts style at USC last year.
I don't know if we've seen them to their own. You talk about having that dog in you, like that's a whole new level of confidence and moxie that you earn when you're the best running back in the country. But yeah, it was really cool. And he said when he got back to the sideline, Jaywan Snyder didn't say anything. So good for Jeremiah Love. The Heisman campaign, and he did the Heisman pose after too, which like somehow got overlooked in all of this.
Yeah, somebody asked me this, like, Love for the Heisman, like what would it take? And I think it's like a highlights award now. Like he's not going to be able to put up the raw stats to do it,
yeah.
But he needs to be, hey, here's against Navy 3 80-yard touchdown runs, like just ridiculous stuff like that. Hurdles, flips. I don't know if I need to see the USC postgame celebration again, but just like a lot of highlight type stuff that's what's going to take. Like the Heisman Award for a skill position player, it's not going to be stats driven. It's going to be like video shared on social media driven.
Stormy should have followed up with that while she had him post game about the USC celebration. Which one's better? Yeah, that or the Heisman pose. Yeah, I mean, it was like the anti Ashton Genty, right? Like Genty had the greatest numbers ever.
Yeah,
but he played in the Mountain West, so he didn't really have any signature moment, so to speak. He was just really, really good. I could see him getting to New York. I can.
Same.
Because I just think the quarterbacks all kind of can't. You get 3 people to vote for. I'm not saying I intentionally try to do everyone from different positions when I do it, but if I'm weighing the third best quarterback versus the best running back or the best other position, more often than not, it's going to take something superhuman for me to put that third quarterback on my ballot. And I think, the betting odds indicate that Jeremiah Love is the favorite among non-quarterbacks right now. And hey, he's on a top 10 team in the country, Pete. Yeah. What do you know? Like he's got the spotlight to himself and he plays a ranked Pittsburgh team in 2 weeks, which is the committee just happened to slip that in there, thinking no one would notice to start off their show last night.
Yes, that is something that we should discuss.
You said there'll be no better than 12, right? And I agree. I think you said 12 and I agreed with you on Saturday.
Yeah, I hedged a little bit. I thought maybe 11, 10 surprised me a little bit. But then at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, somebody's got to be 10.
Right.
I just think that I've said this before, like I really don't think there's much of a difference between Georgia and Notre Dame. I'm also not sure what the difference is, like Texas and Notre Dame. Like there's I would say like teams 5 through 12 are in the rankings, like kind of jumbled up at this point. I don't think I could stand on the table and say like Notre Dame deserved to be 10, but I can't stand on the table and say Notre Dame's overranked either. Like I just, you had to put them in some kind of order. I don't have a huge issue with where Notre Dame is. I think that it's like, and I'm sure we'll have Tim Murray back on the show at some point to talk about point spreads and whatnot. And I don't want to rank teams based on hypothetical point spreads, but I'm not sure who Notre Dame would not be favored against in teams 5 through 12, or it would be like pick 'em type games. Like, I think in our model at The Athletic, Notre Dame was a 9.5 point favorite at BYU, which is kind of where the bracket would send them today. If you're going on the road and you're almost a double-digit favorite, that speaks pretty highly of how, I guess, formulas and whatnot see you. But I'm not saying that's why you should be ranked where you're ranked.
That's my thing. Like, I don't have a problem with Notre Dame at 10. It's more like how, like, I've made this clear, like, perfectly fine with Notre Dame being ahead of Miami. Ahead of Miami. That one's hard for me to understand. Louisville.
I was surprised at I was
Louisville
surprised at
15.
the gap there.
Louisville, Notre Dame is 6-2. Louisville is 7-1. Louisville won at Miami. Notre Dame lost at Miami. Like, I don't know. Here's my thing with the committee. Like, to me, it's like religion. You're doing this all based on belief and not on data. Like, it's a big argument about nothing. They put out at the beginning of the year, let me pull up the press release on August, right before the season started. They made a big to-do about how they're going to rely on all this data this year like they never have before. Here is we're going to ensure the group is equipped with the best resources available in ranking the country's top 25 college football teams. As part of these offseason efforts, the CFP convened 2 groups, a data analytics panel and a membership panel to assess these areas. Following months of work, these groups reviewed their proposed modifications with the CFP Management Committee and Selection Committee. Then it says changes for the upcoming season include enhancements to the tools that the Selection Committee uses to assess schedule strength and how teams perform against their schedule. And then there's a whole bunch. None of this was cited last night. None. Mac Rhodes, who's the Baylor athletic director, starts talking about CJ Carr's deep ball. Like, okay, as long as we're asking about that, what do you think about Arch Manning since you're in the state of Texas? Like, if you're going to weigh schedule strength, how is Texas so far behind? They have two losses, but one of those losses is on the road, non-conference to the best team in the country by 7 points when they had the ball with a chance to tie. They've got 2 top 16 wins, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, which is more than anyone ranked ahead of them does, except for Alabama. Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm fine with Notre Dame being where they are, but you got to show your work. You can't just say, well, they're playing better right now. They're actually not if you're just going off the Boston College game. And you can't justify Miami publicly by saying they're inconsistent. Like, Alabama's inconsistent. They also freaking Florida State. Like, I just think, like, we always knew they made it up as they go along. I'm more disappointed this time because they made a big to-do about all this data they're going to be using, and they have not cited their work at all with it. Like, it just, if I'm a Louisville fan right now, I am banging the table, pissed off that we've got a better record than Notre Dame and better, comparable opponent schedule, and we're 5 spots behind them. And in the end, I don't think any of this matters. Maybe it'll matter as far as Notre Dame getting a home game or not if they were to win out. But even then, I do think they're at risk of getting leaped by possibly Texas or Oklahoma or whoever wins the ACC if they survive with just 1 loss. But to me, it just was like, the top 9, and not any order, but like, I think there's a clear top 9 as far as resumes right now. Notre Dame's among the group right outside of that. And then everything else is kind of a crapshoot. But for them to just throw those rankings out there and just cite like buzzwords like deep balls and consistency, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's my colleague at The Athletic, Scott Docterman, did a great story about a week ago. Just like, hey, look, this is what matters. And it's the strength of schedule, head-to-head competition, comparative outcomes of common opponents without incentivizing margin of victory, and then relative factors such as unavailable a key player or coach or may have impacted team's performance. In terms of relative scoring, which is basically like how good are you versus a team? Like, if you scored 30 points against a team that usually gave up 20, that's, I think, a 50% bump in your relative scoring. So in terms of relative scoring, offense and defense, Notre Dame's about, I think they're 12th in both. So it's, they're good. But I know you look at S&P Plus or FEI. I think FEI, they're 7th. But like Utah, there is 4th, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, Notre Dame is a higher FEI than A&M. That makes no sense. But I think I don't want to bang on like formulas or metrics because they're like, I think they do a very good job. But like, we're all working with about 2/3 data set here. That's the issue with where I don't get too carried away no matter what the first rankings are. It's just like everyone has turned in incomplete work, and we're supposed to write the game story off what is happening 2 minutes into the third quarter. Like, that doesn't really hold a whole lot of weight.
Completely agree. And I know a lot of people are like, why do they even do this? Because of everything you just said. And I don't disagree with that line of thinking. But
so I can watch it on YouTube TV. That's why.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Don't get me started on that. I do think it's still overall good for the health of the sport. I wish college basketball did this or something like this to create excitement before Selection Sunday, when a bunch of people just kind of like realize, oh wait, the tournament's about to start. It's a television show. Their rankings every week, probably forever, that don't make sense. I mean, remember when Michigan State beat Michigan in 21 and they kept ranking Michigan ahead of them, which made no sense until Michigan State lost. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. And in some ways, I don't envy the committee chair who has to go up there and explain it. In other ways, like,
it's an impossible job.
It's an impossible job, but like, you can't tell me there isn't like benefits to doing that. Like, Jeff Long did it and got another job, which he never should have gotten. Like, it's good on the resume. Trust me. Ward Manuel did it last year. Bubba Cunningham for North Carolina last year. But North Carolina happened to get in as the last team of the committee he was the chairman of. So I do think there are benefits to doing it, very self-serving benefits, but benefits nonetheless. But I just, if you're going to tell us you're using all this data, then show your work. Like, I just don't, like, they did not show any data whatsoever. This team's playing better now. This team's not. Like, it just did not add up for me at all. And again, I don't think there's like we're splitting hairs here if we're talking 10 through 16 or so. But because I think there's a clear top three. And I hate the hypothetical point spread. I'm not saying, I don't want to be dismissive of it, but I hate the, like, well, if they played on neutral field, well, Notre Dame was a touchdown favorite over A&M at home.
Right. That's akin to the recruiting rankings argument.
Right.
I don't want to watch games based on recruiting rankings.
Like, they said schedule intent should not matter. It's who you play. So, like, does Notre Dame not benefit from playing Miami, who now isn't what we thought they'd be? Like, that part I don't get either. Like, a lot of it did not add up for me at all. It rarely does, but these things have a way of shaking themselves out. It will be, as long as we're on this podcast, like, Vanderbilt, I thought, got the rawest deal of anybody at 16 with their resume. And it makes me wonder, maybe they won't get in if they win out and win it.
I think they're toast, which is,
I don't think they're toast, but it's not promising.
No. Yeah. I mean, look, from a Notre Dame centric point of view, I don't have this huge issue with them being ahead of Oklahoma or Texas, but like, those teams have better wins than Notre Dame does, and they definitely have opportunities for better wins down the stretch than Notre Dame does. So that would be a little bit concerning.
I don't think either is gonna. I mean,
Alabama
will beat Oklahoma, I think. Well, I don't know. They didn't last year.
Oklahoma play Alabama, I think, and Texas plays Georgia.
I'm saying Oklahoma beat the hell out of Alabama last year, and Oklahoma was not good last year.
Yeah.
Texas has Georgia and A&M. I could see them beating A&M at home in a rivalry game. I have a hard time seeing them winning at Georgia. Kirby has Sark's number.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, like, that's sort of if you're looking for a potential tripwire, Oklahoma and Texas is it. I think, odds of them being behind BYU and Texas Tech at the end, I think, are low. They'll certainly be ahead of one of them next week after they play. But that may just be the first time that they play. And then what happens with Oregon? Oregon's got a great schedule down the stretch. They go to Iowa this weekend. They get USC at home. So that'll be kind of a data point comparison with Notre Dame there. But I felt last week that Notre Dame probably, if I had to divide up my confidence points, if I had 100 confidence points of the scenarios are Notre Dame makes the playoff but goes on the road. Notre Dame makes the playoff but hosts. Notre Dame wins out but misses the playoff. I thought it was an 80% likelihood Notre Dame would make the playoff and go on the road. I feel like that's probably 85% now. I think that missing the playoff is highly, highly unlikely. I
thought you'd say home is improved, because I think it's improved.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, say the second most likely is Notre Dame hosts, and the third most likely is they missed. Last week, I thought those two things were flipped.
I said preseason they could go 0-2 and they'll still make the playoff. And we would say, don't go 0-2. The season will be over. But look, it's not over. Yeah. The Big Ten, Oregon's interesting. I think it's a very, very light resume. But like you said, at Iowa, you get USC at home. And I think you go to Washington. You win out, you're in 10-2. We'll see. And then the Big Ten, I don't think any of these teams would leap Notre Dame. But 19 USC, 20 Iowa, 21 Michigan, all have 2 losses, all have just 1 conference loss. I think if any one of those three win out, they're in the playoff. I don't think any of them will. I say that, and Michigan keeps beating Ohio State somehow, so maybe they will, but I don't think it'll happen. And USC's got to go to Oregon, which I don't see them winning, although maybe they will. Iowa's got at USC next week, home against Oregon this week. So I think that will be taken care of. Well, I like Iowa's chances actually at home against Oregon more than I do at USC. So Iowa's really, really tough place to play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Well, before we keep riffing on this, some business to take care of. Thanks to our friends at Home Run and Pizza. As I've said many times before, once your kids are in youth sports, dinner goes out the window. Home Run and Pizza is there to save the night. Fresh ingredients, great frozen pizza, friend of the pod, friend of my freezer.
At the end of a full day of college football where I forget to eat because I'm watching every game, not on YouTube TV, and covering them too, I could house an entire Home Run and Pizza all by myself. Grab it out of the freezer, and in no time, I catch up on what I should have been eating during halftime. Also, a fun fact, Home Run In is the original tavern-style pizza, the OG of cutting pizza into squares, real Chicago tavern style. Growing up in Chicago, this is how you cut pizza in squares. Thank you to our friends at Home Run In Pizza. And now, Stormy Buonantony. We're now pleased to be joined by Stormy Buonantony of ESPN and VSIN. And Stormy, you've covered Rose Bowls. You've done the in-game for the College Football Playoff National Championship. You've even worked with Tim Murray, friend of the show. But did anything compare to doing Notre Dame-Boston College on Saturday at Alumni Stadium?
Wow, I've never heard my resume laid out like that. Even Tim Murray and Stormy Buonantony. I love Tim. This is Boston College and Notre Dame. So it's funny. My dad is a massive Irish fan. So I actually grew up learning sports, watching Notre Dame and the 49ers. My dad was like a huge Joe Montana guy. So it was thrust upon me from a young age. And so my dad, I kid you not, was more proud of me being on a broadcast for Notre Dame at BC with a spread of 31 than he was me doing the Rose Bowl. Not kidding. He was like above the moon. I've got this long text message from my dad saying, "Oh man, if I would have told you when you were a kid and I was taking you to USC Notre Dame out in California that one day you'd be reporting on that team." Like, it was the whole thing. It was actually really, really cool and sweet and special for my family this week.
That would have been amazing if you had figured out a way to get to Notre Dame USC a couple weeks earlier, because Joe Montana was actually here.
I know, right?
That might have been a little too much for your dad. I don't know.
I did the in-stadium MC stuff for the national championship last year, and I got to meet Joe on the field and take a picture with him. And so that was another kind of geek out moment for my dad that I was able to send him that photo too. So we're double dipping, I guess, the last 2 years.
That's awesome. Well, I was interested, like, it's always fun to talk to people who do the games post, who are kind of like dropping in and, maybe do a Notre Dame game here or there. Like, how similar or different to what you expected it was what you got on Saturday night? We were both there. It was definitely kind of a funkier game than I think anyone from the Notre Dame point of view saw coming.
Yeah, especially in the first half. It was very, I think, clunky is, I guess, a fair way to put it. And especially for our crew coming in, our production meeting that morning when we were kind of laying out, okay, here's kind of how we see things happening a little bit. Maybe if the game gets away from Boston College in the second half, here are some storylines potentially we can target. And we got to none of them because of the way that the game ultimately played out, right? And the expectation, I know at least for me, was that the Irish are going to be able to run the ball at will against this BC run defense. It's the worst in the ACC. They're like 100th in the country. They just saw 2 of their last 3 opponents go for 300 plus and 4 scores on the ground. And when you have the best running back room in the country and it's not close with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, I think it's fair to say we were stunned to an extent the way that BC was able to contain them, at least for a time. I know Love ends up having the long 94-yard touchdown run in the second half, but that was, I mean, of his 136 total rushing yards for the game, right? So that's not what we expected, at least on the surface. And I say that, and I say it's a clunky, ugly game for Notre Dame. They still won by 2 scores. So it's hard to complain from that area as well.
Sorry, when you're broadcasting games, when you're doing production meetings, meeting with the coaches and everyone beforehand, are there ever any indicators that, like, not that something's off, but like, you know what, maybe this game might not go the way we all think it will go. Maybe something's amiss here. Like, was there anything, and I'm guessing no, based on what you just said, but like anything that made you think like, oh, it's Halloween weekend, watch out, this one could get a little weird?
Sometimes in meetings, yes. I did not get that vibe though this week at all. And that was even with like Marcus Freeman came into our meeting. They were a little bit delayed. You know how that is this time of year, whether it's weather or whatever's going on at the airports. And they were a little bit delayed getting into our meeting. He still walked in confident as ever and was great. I mean, you guys are around him. You see how he speaks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was awesome in our meetings. All of the players we talked to were awesome. CJ Carr even, I feel like he was so ramped up when we were sitting down that he just wanted to be on the field now and get it going. So it was a little bit strange to me, the start, just based on the fact that they were coming out of a bye, the energy that they had, the talk around their team. Something that I asked Marcus Freeman about was if there was any like carryover or muscle memory that you could have from last season, losing the early game and having that let down at NIU, and the way they were able to run the table the rest of the way to get to the national championship. And he talked about the importance of like every single game after that being do or die and having a playoff game feel to them throughout the course of the year, and the different lessons that they had to learn along the way. And then you think of an opponent like this, and like no opponent is too little or too great with what happened against NIU a year ago. And so all of those things, like saying all of the right things and then having that start, caught me off guard for sure.
I've sat in production meetings, I think with NBC before, and it was fun to like learn about all the like choose your own adventure storylines that you have in mind that you hope you get to, but you know you're not going to get to all of them. You might not get to your favorites. What were some Notre Dame related stuff that you didn't get to that you wanted to, just based on the way the game went?
Well, we didn't get to say Boubacar Traore's name hardly at all.
Yeah.
And he was such a great story from not only the stack production numbers that he's having this year and the injury last year coming back, but he is from Boston. He's from 15 minutes down the road from BC. He committed there and ultimately flipped to go to the Irish. He had a bunch of family there. We wanted to get into that story, but that wasn't where the game took us, right? And at the end of the day, the game dictates everything. We're not going to force a story in that doesn't make sense. But that was one, I know for me personally, I had a great conversation with him during the week. I loved his comeback story from last year and the mentality of not getting to be a part of the playoff run and now getting to build on it this year, all this stuff. And then, nope, didn't see here. So you guys get it now.
Yeah.
Have you ever covered a game or been around a game where the field goal kicking is just such a misadventure, where three different people miss three different kicks? And I'm sure, like, as a reporter, you're like, all right, this could be a difficult post-game conversation if it ends up costing them.
You cut out a little bit at the end, but I think I get where you're going. Speaking of choose your own adventure, like, no, I don't think that I've seen three different kickers come into a game and all have misses. And it's not like they're long field goals either. It's PATs. And granted, it was windy down there, but it wasn't that windy, you know? And the fact that I had to go talk to Marcus Freeman too, immediately following the missed 34 or 35-yard attempt at the end of the first half. And immediately the question was along the lines like, how frustrating is it not to get points there? And knowing in the back of my mind how the kicking issues have been the way that they have all season, then him to go, we have to get it fixed. We have to get the kicking game fixed. But what do you do? It's not like you're going to go full Kenny Dillingham ASU and have player like tryouts on campus. You know, you've got to get it figured out. And for him even to be in the post game afterwards saying like, oh, what's the problem with the kicking game? Well, the ball didn't go in the goalposts. And if you have three kickers, you have none. Like it's a rough go. But I don't know how you fix it. He would know better than I would. And hopefully they do, because when you do get down the line in critical moments and you need those points, like you're lucky against an opponent like Boston College that you didn't need those points, right? That you're able to get out of there with a 15-point win regardless of having three missed kicks in the game. But if you're in a playoff game down the line, if you get to that point and that's what a game comes down to. And you have to change the way mentally you're going to be aggressive in a moment or not. When you need or want points in a certain moment, you can't get them or can't trust that you can get them. That's huge.
Yeah, it's interesting to like look back at, you mentioned the muscle memory of last season. Like Notre Dame had some major kicking issues last year. Starting kicker was hurt. They just couldn't really function. They weren't missing really extra points like this though. So yeah, it's fascinating to watch that. And I don't know if you'll get Notre Dame again. So asking you, hey, does this look like a playoff team after they just kind of like lumbered through Boston College? But I mean, you get to see it more on a national level than we do. Like, does it still look like a playoff team to you?
So it's funny because going into the game, my answer was yes with like a bullet, absolutely yes. And I do still think that. I think there's something to playing your C- game and still winning by 2 scores on the road, right? Like you're going to take the wins where you can get them. The problem is because yes, eye test in general and what I've seen on tape from them prior this season, I absolutely think they should be a playoff team. But will the situation allow for that is another question. And it's not just on them to keep winning. It's the teams that they beat to perform at a level to help that strength of schedule. That's a whole other layer to it. And so while it's great that Texas A&M is one of the best teams in the country right now, the Miami loss is going like the way that they are performing and losing it against SMU this week. Like that's going to be costly. It's great that USC won and they're playing well and their offense is as good as it is, that Notre Dame was able to hold them to, their fewest points in the season at that point. But is Pitt going to keep this up? Navy just lost. And those are important games that they have coming up. So I think there's a lot of layers to their schedule that are just kind of out of their control. And I don't even think it's as much about style points the rest of the way as it is about the teams that they beat performing well.
You do a lot of the ACC After Dark games. You're going to Louisville this week. You've seen this league more than most. There's 6 teams right now that are either undefeated in conference play or have 1 conference loss. Miami isn't among that group. How do you see this ACC race shaking out, especially since most of these teams do not play each other down the stretch here?
Yeah. How wild is it that Miami, who was an odds-on number however many weeks ago to win the conference, is now the longest shot on the board? It's crazy to think about the way this league is played out. I actually, so the show that I host on VSIN, Money Moves, we do a segment every week called Call Me Crazy But, and it's kind of like our overreaction segment. And I'm trying to pull up to see what I put in the segment for today because it was about the ACC and it was something along the lines of, does anyone actually want to win this league? Because I have no idea what's going on. Is like Louisville, I'm excited to have them this week to get my own kind of idea of what they are and if they're a true contender. But I thought that all signs were pointing to a Miami Georgia Tech ACC title game, which is no longer in the cards at all, which is just wild to think about for me. So I have no idea who is going to win that conference. Like I don't want to call out Virginia, but I don't think that they're that good. So it's weird to look at this league and then you see a team like Notre Dame that's on the outside looking in. You're like, one of these teams is going to get an auto bid. It's tough, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of an inside baseball question, but like the halftime sideline interview that you do, I think a lot of time coaches are like just sort of in their own head at that moment. Marcus probably 100% was like, he's just exasperated. Like what's your strategy for like getting something insightful, but also getting something that like kind of pops on TV a little bit? Like to get the best out of like what is really kind of a 30-second soundbite.
There's a few layers to it. For me, I always think like our job is to ask the question that everybody at home knows is obvious and wants to know the answer to. So that's usually my priority one. And then the shorter my question can be, usually the better, because it then gives a coach an opportunity to try to like elaborate and maybe go a little bit bigger than what I'm asking. And so those are usually my 2 keys or goals. I I always I'm a very happy-go-lucky, smiley person. And so in those moments when I'm getting a coach who's heated or frustrated with an official or just missed a field goal, right? Like that's when I'm like, okay, I gotta be serious reporter right now and make sure I don't stumble because the coach is already upset or irritated about whatever he's doing. So for me, it's just about being concise, asking the obvious question, and more often than not, the coach understands that's my job and I have to do it and I have to ask certain questions. So I've had good experiences for the most part. And a coach like Marcus Freeman, he's always going to give you something to chew on a little bit more than just a 3-word answer. And I need to get the bleep out of here.
By that same token, how refreshing or fun was the post-game interview with Jeremiah Love? I think it only might have aired online. At least I saw it online. I didn't see it live. But when he's talking about going back and forth with Jaywan Snyder and then kind of talking with his teammates on the sideline as he finishes that 96-yard touchdown run.
Yes, I loved it. And I know, Matt, I had told you offline, he's somebody that I had never interacted with in person before. And I had seen the game day piece about him and his personality. And I know that he's by nature a little bit more quiet. And so I was curious in our meetings, if it was going to be difficult to get him to open up. And he was wonderful. And in that post-game interview, I mean, what a great soundbite that I asked him when the hole finally opened up for the long run, what was he thinking in that moment? And he was like, I was just thinking about my coach who told me I couldn't go the length of the field. And I was like, I've already done it. What do you mean I can't? And so that was a really fun moment. And I loved that when he said he got back to the sideline and he actually did get a chance to talk to him, he had nothing to say. And so just a fun little thing there. And gosh, is he not just a ridiculously special talent, human, everything? 10 out of 10 what the Irish have in that running back room with him.
Yeah, he is a fascinating guy to write about. And yeah, it's like when I was texting with somebody about post game about I hadn't seen your post game with him, just I didn't know if he had found Sider on the sideline or not, because it seemed like he spent about 20 yards looking for him from about the 40 to the 40.
Yes, he said he didn't see him in the initial, when he was actually looking for him. But once he actually finally got back over there and sat down, they talked. But he didn't find him when he wanted to. He was bummed on it.
We can't let you go without asking you at least give us some story about working with Tim Murray as often as you unfortunately do. He almost Wally Pitt me on this show last year. Still a friend of the show. Comes on. Give us something on Tim.
I adore Tim Murray. My favorite thing about working with him, though, is because we've always worked separate shows, and the only times we really work together is when we're filling in for other people or there's crossover for an event, right? And we were filling in on an early morning 4 a.m. show for a full week together, and it was during the holidays a couple years ago. And for all of the sports and sports betting related debates we had, the biggest, most viral debate we had was about Die Hard being a Christmas movie or not. And it was hysterical. And it was just every segment we kept bringing it back up. And I was like, what do you mean you don't like It's a Wonderful Life, but you have to watch Die Hard every year? It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. But Tim's great. I love he and his wife. When Notre Dame played BYU here in Vegas a few years ago, we all went and we're hanging out there. He's a gem, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Stormy, thanks for making some time for us on The Independent. Hopefully our paths will cross again, maybe in the college football playoff. Who knows? I don't know if Joe Montana will make an appearance again, but we appreciate you making the time. Best of luck the rest of the season and at Louisville on this weekend.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you to Stormy Buonantony for joining The Independent. Great conversation with her. Great background insight into that Jeremiah Love interview. Before we get to questions, want to thank some of our friends of the show. First off, Obvious Shirts, OBVIOUSSHIRTS.com. Great pod merchandise, quarter zips, hoodies, t-shirts, crew necks, you name it. Got great pod logos on there. Got some fun sayings. Still have Southern Cal is afraid to play us because until we hear otherwise, that is fact. Thank you to our friends at Obvious Shirts for being a tremendous partner of the Independent.
And our friends at Roback.com. That's RHOBACK.com. You can get 20% off your first order with promo code Irish. You can wear hoodie, which I often sport during the show, vests, polos, quarter zips, joggers, shorts, tees. I think there's some hats on there too. And at University officially licensed apparel from Notre Dame and a bunch of other schools. You can check out the new line of Notre Dame merch. Go to Roback.com. That's RHOBACK.com. Promo code Irish for 20% off your first order.
And thanks to our friends at DraftKings. One play can change everything. One snap can silence a stadium. Each weekend, the stakes get higher and higher, and no one gets you closer to it all than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Questions? Jeremy Whaley. Navy question. Do we know if Ash is going to use last year's playbook for Navy? Playoff question. What needs to happen for Notre Dame to host a playoff game?
I think the first part first. I don't think you ever used the playbook from last year because Navy knows what you did last year.
Well, Navy served it on a silver platter.
Yeah. They're like, okay, if you would like to get destroyed by our new hybrid triple option offense, good luck to you. So, but I think some core tenets do carry over from year to year to kind of get to Jeremy's question. Like, I do think you have to be willing to take the fight to Navy opposed to just like catch them. I've seen Notre Dame try to play passive against Navy. It never works. I've seen Notre Dame try to be aggressive against Navy. It usually does work. So I think that you start with that. You have to have, I think, Jalen Sneed's performance against Navy last year was a really eye-opening thing. You got to have some, not specialists like that, but guys who really are dedicated to the craft of stopping Navy. So that's part of it. But mostly I think the issue for stopping Navy is you score a bunch of points and they can't keep up with you. I've long contended like the best Notre Dame teams on offense are always the ones that pace Navy. And it has less to do with maybe all your triple option defensive tricks.
Would have been nice if they won last week because maybe they're ranked then as an undefeated team and maybe that adds a little more oomph to this game. I did find it funny and enlightening. Tim O'Malley asked Marcus Freeman in the press conference Monday, hey, you're the only first year, and I forget, of the last 5, I think he said, Notre Dame defense coordinators, you're the only one who in his first year did not struggle with Navy. And Freeman said, like, wait a minute, back it up. That was not my first time facing Navy. My first time was at Cincinnati, and I think they set a record against us. So sure enough, I look it up. 2017 Cincinnati Navy ran for 569 yards, which was just 3 yards short of a program record for rushing yards in a game. And Navy won that. That was year 1 for Luke Fickell and Marcus Freeman at Cincinnati. So it certainly helps to have a head coach who's been in those waters before, both on the deep end of it and the shallow end of it. And I don't know what Chris Ash,
he played at Ohio State.
I was going to say that was the Connor Stallions game, right? The intro of the Netflix special. Did you watch it?
No, that I don't know. But yeah, Ash has had some experience. But I think it's like Washington, Mickens, Bulla. They've always had some experience.
Right.
Freeman's had some experience. I do wonder the Kaiser Mills Cross Watts departures, if this is a game that hurts a little bit more. just because they were so good at everything, particularly like being locked into your assignments. So I would think that Navy would have more success offensively against Notre Dame than they did last year, for obvious reasons. But to me it feels like a game where Navy is going to score a couple touchdowns at least, opposed to getting shut out entirely, but certainly not Marcus Freeman, Cincinnati. As he was walking off the podium, I was like, "Hey, that was a rough box score, huh?" As I also had looked it up. He's like, "That was scars, man. That was scars."
To quote a famous fellow good-looking Notre Dame defense coordinator, there was no plan B that day.
No. That's it's a little bit more of a Diaco vibe there. The second part of Jeremy's question: Notre Dame hosting a playoff game. I think you probably need at least a couple results out of the blue, like Ole Miss loses the Egg Bowl type thing. Because I do think like Notre Dame is probably going to run into a ceiling with hosting because Oregon has too many good opportunities to get good wins. Texas Tech or BYU, one of them is going to be ahead of Notre Dame.
One of them
Georgia
will
and Ole Miss
not.
don't really play. I mean, I know Georgia gets Texas, but I would assume they would pace Texas.
Get Georgia Tech too, who they needed how many overtimes to beat last year?
87, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. That Georgia is a weird team, though. Man.
I was just going to say, like, they're not nearly as talented as they've been, but they do seem more like even Kirby, like they seem more together.
Do they? I mean, that's like,
but they're not. They don't have the Jalen Carters and
Notre Dame had like vibes. I think Georgia's vibes are not good. Like,
interesting. I like the vibes there. I don't like the personnel relative to, again, like even 2 years ago, you look up and down that roster, it's like, oh my God, like future Philadelphia Eagles starters, like up and down that defense. They don't have that this year. But I don't know. I think, winning all those close games, at Tennessee, late against Ole Miss, that defense is same thing in Florida, right?
At Auburn, though, like
that was a weird one. But I mean,
Auburn.
I feel like it didn't happen against Alabama, although it almost did. Like every Kirby Smart game this year has been the same. It's like they're going to be scared for 2.5 quarters and then they're going to figure it out and then pull away at the end. Because like they should have beat Florida by 11. Really sucks if you bet Georgia minus 7.5. Not that I know anything about that, but they're a weird team. Like I think they'll beat Texas. I think they'll beat Georgia Tech, but that's always a weird game, especially this being a better Georgia Tech team than we've seen in years past. But I don't. Ole Miss is interesting to me. Like as far as teams at Notre Dame, like, all right, loser of Texas Tech BYU this week will fall behind Notre Dame.
Yes,
forever, probably.
Maybe Tech. Maybe forever.
Probably. I think Tech wins this game. I think Tech wins the Big 12. I think the Big 12 ultimately gets one in. BYU has second year in a row now where they're just undefeated, and we're like, how do they keep doing it? But to their credit, they are. I don't think two Big 12 teams will end up ahead of Notre Dame. I have a very hard time seeing that. Oregon, we'll see. That will determine itself.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss, I mean, they shouldn't lose another game, and they get Florida at home, which I think is a big deal because the Swamp's still a tough place to play at. But the Egg Bowl's the Egg Bowl. I mean, Mississippi State's, I think, a lot better than their record. It's a weird rivalry game. Anytime you hear Lane up for a job, it seems like his team just face plants. This happened in 2022 when they hired Hugh Freeze. It was like the three schools that all thought they'd have Auburn's ex-coach all lost all the remaining games. Like, I do think distractions are real. So I think last year's Ole Miss team was a better team than this year's team. This team has a better schedule or more favorable schedule. So I do think Ole Miss is capable of losing a game, in which case Notre Dame would be ahead of them. Here's one for you, because I think it's possible. What if A&M loses at Mizzou and Texas, finishes 10-2?
Oh,
I think they're in. Are they ahead of Notre Dame? I don't know.
Probably not.
Right.
I do. And I think there's the complicating factor of the championship weekend round where I think we saw the way the committee handled it last year. You're not really punished if you lose.
No. Nor should you be.
As long as you don't get like blown out, like Ohio State, Wisconsin was like 77-0 or something.
Notre Dame, Clemson. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even that. I mean, Notre Dame really wasn't king for that. So I guess I don't have a huge issue with that. But I think Notre Dame will be the 9 seed. I think that to me feels like their most, that not the highest they can go, but the most likely spot where they'll end up.
I'd say it's the most likely. I would not rule out a home game based on last night's rankings. I don't trust a lot of the teams in front of them. And even A&M, who's playing very well, like, I don't think they run the table. And by the way, you mentioned, like, I'm not advocating for the Big Ten's mega playoff thing, but we got to do something about these conference championship games. I just think they're a waste of time in this era. I mean, I spoke to someone at A&M during the bye week who's like, yeah, I think we'd be better off losing between now and then, so we don't have to play that game when we get a home playoff game. And I think that's a sentiment that most people around the country feel. Like, it will be cool to see Ohio State play Indiana, to see them on the same field together. But at the same time, short of it being a 59-0 game, does it really matter? Do we really care? Look at, last year's, the SEC title game. Texas lost to Georgia, made it further in the playoff than Georgia. Penn State lost Oregon.
Georgia.
Penn State lost Oregon, made it further in the playoff than Oregon. Like, I don't think these things mean nearly as much as they used to. Sarah McGuire, I'm ready with the correct spelling of oh, you spelled it wrong again. You said segue. It's segue. It's a G, not a Q. This week. Thanks for roasting us last week, Matt.
Matt has woken up and chosen violence.
John, Regine, are you sure? I think that was her. Oh, no. Hold on. Never mind. I didn't get to it. Hold on. Gee, I'm back with the correct spelling of segue this week. LOL. All right. We're not out of go. All right. Sarah McGuire again. With all the noise about legacy rivalry games being taken off schedules, will the ND Navy game ever be touched, or is that here to stay? God, I hope it's. I think that's as untouchable as anything, but I haven't seen that written in stone.
We're not getting to a point. I've never heard even one nugget of like, oh, I don't know if we should keep doing this from Navy or Notre Dame. So as long as that's the case, this will go on in perpetuity, which I think sometimes it bubbles up. Notre Dame fans are like, do we really need to keep doing this? Usually it's after a linebacker's knee gets wiped out. But even that kind of stuff doesn't really happen anymore. Like, the rule changes affecting option teams have lessen the likelihood of that happening. So I don't know. I like the series. I'm not saying it is like the most amazing gift to college football, but I like that you can sort of mark your calendar by it if you're a Notre Dame person.
I like, in this crazy changing world, like, it's the one last reliable thing that has a cool, meaningful story behind it.
Yeah.
And it's something that hopefully is here to stay.
The only thing I'd change about it is I'd put it in Annapolis at least once.
Yeah, so it'd be cool if they went there. Be cool if they went to Mikey Stadium one year or two for Army. Harley the Hippo, as long as we're on the topic of rivalry games, is there any truth to the reports that Notre Dame and USC could be played at a neutral site next year? It's been explored, at least on the USC end. I'd say that's still unlikely, but I still don't think they're like, I think it gets done. I still don't think they're close to getting it done as far as moving around the Big Ten games that the Big Ten would need to do to make that work earlier in the season.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard some other reporting that it's moving towards a neutral site next year. I don't totally understand what the point of that is for USC. If you're trying to cut down on travel, why would you take a game out of the Coliseum? That was just confusing to me. And if you're USC, I think the only place you could put it where you would have a guaranteed large draw of USC fans is Vegas. So
even then, it's not like Notre Dame fans aren't going to that. Like,
yeah, it would still be
50.
I'm just saying, if you stuck it in like Kansas City, like that's going to be a home game for Notre Dame. I don't get it. So
it would have to be neutral every year, right? If they did that,
I don't know if they'll rotate it through where it'd be on campus sometimes and neutral other times. So it'll be like sort of a couple home games, a couple neutral site games. I'm not sure. I feel like everything is on the table here as far as Notre Dame goes. I mean, they were, discussing Mexico City for a while.
But was Notre Dame really discussing that, or was that, because I know that was USC's idea? Was Notre
Dame my understanding is like Notre Dame was like, we'll listen to this. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm not sure. This is something I need to check in on a little bit more. I think after the USC game came and went, there was all this like, we're so close. All parties are in agreement. This is so important to play it. And you're just like, So sign the contract already.
That was my takeaway as well. I do think it takes a lot of heavy lift to not play it. I guess maybe next year it could still be the last game of the year, but they need some assurances and help from the Big Ten to move things around.
Yeah, good.
As far as making it, which
well, you're waiting on the Big Ten for some help and assurances. Yeah,
exactly.
good stuff, guys.
Also, great picture, Harley the hippo. It's a literal hippo with a gold helmet on it. Couple Heisman Love questions. Sarah McGuire, last running back to win it was Derrick Henry 10 years ago. Let's go, J Love. Rajon Love could use a Tony Dorsett game for. I said that 50th anniversary of his 303-yard game against Notre Dame. I'm sure they'll get pumped up a lot in the lead up to the game. And yeah,
that's probably what it would take. I mean, I didn't really think. I was thinking about it more in terms of highlights, but a single game rushing record where you also go over 300 yards, like that's probably what it would require.
I mean, well, he came close to it against USC, which is a bigger game. Was Saquon Barkley a Heisman finalist in 17? I feel like he was, or at least was talked about as such. I just remember thinking like the numbers aren't great, but like anyone who watches him play can clearly tell.
Yeah.
Like like Josh Adams had a Heisman campaign that year and probably had better numbers at certain points than Barkley did, but it's like Adams has the best offensive line in the country and Barkley's Barkley. So I do think it means moments and highlights mean more than ultimately stats. There are a lot of stuff. Superman TD Jesus. Make peace with Notre Dame's ranking went out and then accept our fate. If we lose to Indiana, if we run into undefeated Revenge Signetti, we are absolutely doomed. Here's hoping for an A&M rematch. That I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean,
I think it would be way more of a game than it was last year.
Yes, but like I don't look at Indiana from Notre Dame's side saying, "Oh, let's avoid them." Yeah. The only team I would unequivocally say, "Oh, shoot," to is Ohio State, and even then, I don't think Ohio State's unbeatable. I just think they're clearly the best team in the country this year.
Yeah, it's probably a little late to have a poll in our chat, but like if I was a Notre Dame fan, I feel like the thing I would be most thrilled about from the rankings is Ohio State on the other side of the bracket. Like whether you're hosting or you're traveling, there are some pros and cons of both there, I suppose. But I think the biggest thing you want if you're Notre Dame is like to not see Ohio State until the national championship game.
Yeah, I think could ask Oregon about that last year, right? I mean, yeah. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I will say at their very best, I do think Alabama might be the best team in the country, but you don't know if you're going to get their best.
No, you do not.
Tristan Tahara, thanks for the audio while I work out. Man, if these tones aren't motivating you.
Here I am like eating leftover Halloween candy between questions, and Tristan Tahara's at the gym. Thanks a lot, Tristan. Appreciate that.
I will say maybe it says something about the old man I've become, but like I find myself listening to podcasts a lot more than music on the treadmill now. And it's like, I don't see a difference in my energy level. Justin ND Sniper, the committee also said before the season that they wouldn't punish teams for close losses to highly ranked teams because they want to encourage teams to schedule tough opponents. Hear, hear.
I like that. I mean,
but are they doing that? Like,
I think that unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why I think Vanderbilt is where it is. It's one of the reasons why there's no way you could put Indiana over Ohio State, and you shouldn't put them over A&M, frankly. Teams that don't even make the effort to challenge themselves in the non-con, like I think you got to be dinged for that. Notre Dame is obviously complicated because like what's non-conference for Notre Dame? I don't know how that you would even quantify that, but if you're actively trying to give yourself a garbage schedule, I think that there should be a price to pay for that. Like I think that's with Michigan this year. I give them credit for going to Oklahoma,
right? And Oklahoma
most year they played nobody.
Oklahoma for playing that game, which I think Oklahoma's appropriately ranked, but they don't seem to be benefiting from playing that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you in theory. Again, the inconsistency is maddening. Like, I think Mac Rhodes said something to the effect of like, the Florida State loss was so long ago for Alabama. We know they're a different team. And it's like, okay, so it's like, does that eradicate everything from week one? Like, again, Texas played Ohio State to the final whistle on the road in a game that as we said, you don't technically have to schedule anymore. So I don't know. Just with another one, ND's FPI is 5th on ESPN. Again, I worked at ESPN for 6 years, and yet to meet someone there who understands what FPI is. I believe Penn State's 23rd currently in their FPI with a 3-5 record. So good for FPI. FPI can go F itself.
Hey, no.
See Blackistan. So guess NC State found more Williams than Marys, huh? But the giant killer, Dave Doran, giving Georgia Tech and Virginia.
That was a real. I mean, it is definitely. I didn't think NC State would be one of those like comparative games for Notre Dame's schedule, just to be like, okay, are they good or are they not? In the same way that like Arkansas is by far the weirdest one. Like we're talking about a team that has not beaten a Power 4 opponent, and we're in early November here, and yet it's like a super interesting point of comparison for Notre Dame against a bunch of SEC schools because like Notre Dame
win other than USC.
And Arkansas has been a pain in the ass to everyone else.
And Notre Dame's wins are against the last place teams in the SEC, the dead last place team of the Big Ten, and the dead last place team in the ACC in Boston College. Like, it's not a great body of work as far as wins are concerned outside of USC. And I know I'm going to root for USC, but
there are 6 Power 4 programs yet to beat another Power 4 program. Notre Dame has beaten 3 of them. The other ones are Oklahoma State, Penn State, and Wisconsin.
Lovely. Wisconsin. That's not the company you want to keep this year. Love similar ones. Archer 00 Arrow. The discussion is a feature of a committee, not a bug. That's a Pete Sampson line. The same conversations surround the NCAA B-ball tourney every year too. Committee picks and chooses which perspectives apply to each team. Basketball, though, but you do. I don't know. Basketball, they have like. You may not agree with it, but like they have pretty hard core metrics. Now they're
I'm just saying like the rankings shows our college sports as a television product.
Yes.
First and foremost. So I think that's where I'm in total agreement with Archer 00 Arrow.
I agree with that. I just think basketball, whether you like it or not, and you probably don't like it if you're a mid-major and you have trouble scheduling these games, there are like formulas that will get you in. But, who's crying for team 68 versus 67 versus, team 13 versus team 12? More cold as Brian. Hey guys, forgot to mention Saturday I met Plexico Burris at the game. LOL. Pete's one-time bestie on Twitter.
Yeah.
Also, cold as Brian. I was hoping to meet Pete, but that's not a bad consolation.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. If you've maybe cold as Brian, if you're listening right now, and these aren't preloaded questions, like, were you also surprised about how big Plexico Burris actually is? I met him after a high school game a year ago, and I went to see Elijah Burris and Nolan James Jr. play, and I was just like, holy crap. And I'm not talking about like the big former athlete who just got like wide. He looks like he could play defensive end right now. He's a large individual.
Steve Blackiston, Pete, we recently hired a DePaul grad. What's something I could say to him that would sound impressive?
Wabash sucks.
Oh, geez. I could have come up with that one. Just said, hey, I just got on my question answered on a pod by Pete Sampson.
No, it's definitely some Monon Bell commentary.
Don't say Joe Shane as a Giants fan.
Joe Shane, Brad Stevens. Those are big DePaul hookups there. Man, what else for DePaul? I just, it's like if you want to casually drop a reference to like the Royal West Library or Black Sox Stadium, you can do that. But I think that they might think you're a try hard, as my 12-year-old likes to say.
Crying belly. Put on the fedora, Matt. It'll impress her. Now I'll put it on during the DraftKings ad read. How about that? They'll pay me extra. Superman TD Jesus again. Arguing about rankings is like arguing about whose favorite color is better. LOL. Waste of effort and everyone's time. Don't disagree, but it is fun. There's another one here. I was just gonna. Oh, Steve Blackiston again. Flying up for the game this weekend. 1, dinner recommendations in downtown Chicago Friday night. 2, over under the time of this game. We went to Fioretta for our anniversary this past weekend. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Make sure it's like an occasion worth celebrating because it was the most expensive dinner I've had in a while. And these DraftKings and home run pizza ads don't pay for everything. So awesome.
They just pay for more home run and pizza.
Awesome experience though. One of the most like visually impressive restaurants I've ever sat down in. Awesome decor, awesome service, awesome food. Very, very pricey, but worth it for a fine dining experience in the West Loop. Over under on time of this game. I mean, it's a prime time game, but they also want to get Saturday Night Live in, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should not have a problem with that. So, it's interesting. I should go back and look at total game time for the previous Navy games. I'm assuming this is kind of more of your 305, 315 type of runtime, which I'm with, because look, we got a post game episode of The Independent to record after Notre Dame Navy, and we don't want to. I personally don't want to be in the press box until 2:30 in the morning.
That'd be a rough one. Here's a good one. Brian Carney. Question: any Notre Dame assistant coaches on list for head coach openings? There will be. I mean, I can't tell you any right now, but
so I'm interested. I was having this conversation similar to Brian's question about staff turnover at Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame's coordinators, they're set. We're good on that. If you're Marcus Freeman, Denbrock, Ash, against all odds where we were in early September.
Al Golding will be available next year.
Yeah, but is Max Bulla? What happens at Michigan State? Would Max Bulla be a DC coordinator candidate there? What happens at Boston College? Bill O'Brien is losing his mind this week about.
Can we talk about that interview? That interview was gold on so many levels.
I just it reeked of you don't understand the assignment as a college football head coach to me.
It did, but just the whole what was the guy's name when he said "What's up" to the next reporter?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the reporter.
He goes on a rant and then he goes, "What's up, Peter?" or whatever to the next guy. And
basically the question was what do you say to the fans who are discouraged the fact that you're 1-8? And you got to have a better answer than ripping the reporter's head off.
It was a clunkily phrased question. I don't think you should ask your question. Don't because the fans want to know. You're there, you ask the question.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm guessing there's something personal there because Bill keeps saying you only come here once a month. However, the reporter who asked the question's last name is Gualtieri, as in Paulie Gualtieri, Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos, which just makes this whole brouhaha that much funnier, in my opinion. But they're I don't think he'll get fired, but I don't know. Maybe that's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll run into a similar situation as the last guy who's
the runner-up last time.
No, I was he went to join the Packers staff.
Jeff Hafley.
Yeah, I really like Jeff Hafley, but I think there might be a this is just not going to happen here vibe there. And
I think Jeff.
You got to have somebody who loves Boston College. I think Al Washington loves Boston College.
Jeff Hafley will be an NFL head coach sooner than later, and he did very well for himself career-wise to make that move when he did. And Al Washington was the runner-up to Bill O'Brien last time.
Mike Mickens is a defensive coordinator somewhere, maybe.
Well, I think Jaywan Snyder will be a head coach. I know for a fact he wants to be a head coach, and therefore I think he probably will be one before anyone else on this staff if the cards line. Someone, friend of the pod, very plugged in, reached out to me yesterday and said, "Am I crazy, or should Mike Denbrock be getting a ton of head coaching looks right now?" And I said, "You're not crazy, but he doesn't put himself out there."
No.
And I think he's very I think he'd be a great head coach in the right spot. I also think he makes enough money and is, egoless enough where he would not. I'm trying to think of a job where I'm if you're Mike Denbrock, you might want to take that one. Cincinnati, maybe if Scott Satterfield leaves, I don't know. But even then, that's low end. I mean, he's making over $2 million a year now at Notre Dame. There will be, with this coaching cycle, there absolutely will be turnover, just with everything going on nationally. But I've not heard anything specific, as far as certain guys going to certain spots. But I'm sure that will come up, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that and navigating that a lot throughout the playoff, like every good team with their stuff will be. Drew Claw. Why isn't this clicking? All right, it's not pulling up. I keep hitting.
I got it. It says at this point, is there talk
to
just redshirt Jaden Grayhouse, or will he actually play at any point in a Notre Dame uniform again?
Justin Andy Sniper says no chance he's redshirting from what I've heard. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know I said that we would ask Marcus Freeman about this, and I failed to do that on Monday. But it just every week it gets a little bit more what? So I'm not sure. I don't know. And to be totally honest about it, I'm not sure if it's even important anymore the way Will Pauling is playing. It would be because I think a lot of times we get questions about why doesn't player X get more touches than player Y? And like, I understand that, but usually it's because like player X is not maybe playing that well. Like Notre Dame has enough places for CJ Carr to put the football without Jaden Greathouse.
This is a very maybe dumb question, but mathematically it makes sense. So bear with me here. Could he well, technically he could redshirt and still play in the playoff.
Yeah.
Would Notre Dame be okay with that? Would he be okay with that? Because if you want a new destination, you kind of got to get out of there in January. January.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many spots where like you kind of, I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know how Marcus Freeman would deal with that.
Yeah, I don't. And I say all that to say, like, I'm with you. It doesn't matter right now. I think it matters in the playoff. Like, he didn't matter in the regular season last year either. Yeah. And then he ended up saving them in the playoffs. So
that's true.
I do think it becomes a numbers game and a depth game when you get deep in the playoff, which leads into the next question from Justin ND Sniper. Question 2, do you think this current Notre Dame team has improved overall from games 1 to 2 or no? It seems like we improved on defense, but other areas have since become weaker, like special teams. The offense has struggled at times too. I think they've absolutely improved, especially on defense. Offense, yeah, but I don't think I think the offense, the weak spots for the most part have to do with the interior of the offensive line being decimated, which is football. Like, it's a long season. People are going to get hurt. You're going to have depth like they did last year when they made a run to the national title game. So I absolutely think they've improved overall. They got to figure the kicking game out. Yeah, absolutely. But I absolutely think they've improved overall, especially.
As the offense kind of plateaued a little bit, I think it's probably fair to say. But I think the defense is at a level now that I honestly didn't think was possible. So I think that the defense has improved by so much that the offense sort of like maybe spinning their wheels a little bit is okay. And then obviously you have to make an extra point as well. So if Notre Dame kind of bottoms out at some point, I think it's going to be special teams related, not offense or defense.
There are a lot in here. We're only going to have time for a couple more. I did want to get to one. Rajan, should teams be reseeded after round 1 of the playoffs? Why should 8 get 1 if 12 is still alive? I say no. I think, to use the line everyone uses, it's a feature, not a bug. I think, as much as we hate to say this part out loud, I'd say with most sports, if you think the best team wins it every year, you're wrong. A lot of times it's about the best path, which is why you want to build a program that gives you the most bites at the apple. But I say no. I mean, my personal preference, I think that's the fun of it. Like, you get into a tournament and anything can happen. But I understand the inherent unfairness of it all. I do want to plug, they're not a sponsor, but I plugged them last year, bball.notnothing.net.
Ooh, yeah, it's about that time.
Man, I'm having fun on that with the ACC with 6 different teams. Duke is in the driver's seat, believe it or not, to win the ACC.
Yeah, it's a great, for people who maybe are not familiar with it, it's a great sort of if A, then B, then C. You can plug in like all the results of games to figure out the tiebreakers for conference championship games, sort of who controls their path to the conference championship game, who doesn't, what help they would need. It's I hesitate to say it's a huge waste of time, but it's an enjoyable way to waste time figuring out all these various scenarios.
Predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame 26.5 point favorite. Over under of 56.5.
I feel like Navy will cover. 26.5 is a huge number. I realize how this game went last year. I think Notre Dame is unlikely to be gifted dropped pitches like they were last season. So I keep predicting Notre Dame to hit 40 points, and I haven't lately. But I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna keep banging my head against that wall. So I'll go Notre Dame 42-21. I think Navy poses some real problems. But I just think if there's 8 series in the game, Notre Dame will score touchdowns on 6 of them. Navy is not going to go challenge you once you do that. So I don't know how the 42-21 comes to pass. Maybe Notre Dame's up 42-14 with 5 minutes to go, and Navy does something super annoying like drives the length of the field, recovers an onside kick, and then has like a fullback dive that goes for a touchdown. But I'll go Notre Dame 42-21.
I'm trying to figure out how you get to 42. Is it 6 touchdowns, 3 missed extra points, but then a field goal?
No, I think it's 3 missed extra points, but 3 converted 2-point conversions.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Do you hear Freeman say that this week? He was like, if I think we got to go for 2 because we can't make extra point, I'll do that. I'm like, oh man, we are in a dark place.
Yes. I'll go 35-14. If you look at most of their home games outside of USC, they've followed a pattern of like stinky, uncomfortable first halves followed by, oh wait, we're the better team. Our defense is not going to give up a point in the second half, and we're just going to slowly burn them on offense, particularly through the run game. So I think it's probably like 14-7 at halftime or something like that. And Notre Dame just, does what they do in the second half. Maybe won't be able to keep up with them, but we'll see. I don't think it'll be like last year's. I do think this is a good Navy team. Shout out Brian Newberry, who's come a hell of a long way from kicking a field goal down 42-0 in the opener in Dublin in 2023. Literally, like that was his first game as Navy's head coach. I'm like, this is not going to go well. And to the guy's credit, he's done a pretty good job there so far. So, I think it'll be a manageable time, a little bit more than 3 hours. 35-14. Jeremiah Love is minus 1,000 to score a touchdown in this game, which means it's all but certain. I forget, was it the Army game last year? One of them I'm in the hospital bed watching, and I can't do anything. So I'm like betting on my phone just to like entertain myself. And I'm like, get in the end zone. Won't be doing that this weekend, but that's minus 1,000. Tells you what people think of him. And also, I have to imagine his odds improve with each Jadarian Price fumble in the red zone because it's like, we're not going to go there anymore. But yeah, Jeremiah Love. It's a primetime game, but I don't think it's like I don't know what Heisman moment he'll have, but I think every opportunity counts if you want to get him to New York. And I think he has a chance to get there. I don't think he's going to win it, but I do think he has a chance to get there.
Totally agree with all that. All right. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Independent. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our sponsors. And Matt and I, we will be back in the hopefully late Saturday night, opposed to the wee hours of Sunday morning for a post-game episode following Notre Dame-Navy. 7:30 kickoff, NBC, prime time. So it'll be a fun game to break down. So until Saturday night / Sunday morning, he's Matt. I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on the latest episode of The Independent.